views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Welcome to Health Equity Now. I'm extremely pleased to be here with Brenda Rosen, the President and CEO of Breaking Ground, a national leader in affordable and supportive housing here in the Bronx and NYC and beyond. And I'm also very happy to have with me today a guest co-host, Laura Galmo, political science major here at Lehman College, the City University of New York. Laura, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Brenda, welcome.
Thank you as well.
So, Breaking Ground's been doing some amazing work in recent years and for some time now. Tell us a little bit about Breaking Ground, its mission, some of your buildings in the Bronx and beyond.
Sure. So Breaking Ground is in its 27th year of operation. We focus on the development and operation of permanent supportive housing. We also provide, we are the leader in the provision of outreach services to all homeless people in Brooklyn, Queens, and about a third of Manhattan. And we currently have 2 permanent supportive housing residences in the Bronx that are open and running. We have another one set to open in the next week or so, and 3 more on the horizon. So all told, more than 1,000 new units of housing coming to the Bronx.
Fantastic.
So could you tell us a little bit about the difference between supportive and affordable housing?
Sure. So affordable housing is exactly what it sounds like. It's permanent housing for people that earn between X and X in terms of income, and the rents are set at an affordable rate so that they can stay in their homes for as long as possible. Supportive housing is affordable housing with on-site supports. So the difference is that in supportive housing, you have robust wraparound supports that are on site and available to tenants at all times.
Excellent. So pick a unit in the Bronx. What's one of your units? One of your buildings?
We have a building, the Brook, in the Bronx on 148th Street and Brook Avenue.
And how many units does the Brook have?
190 units.
190.
Mm-hmm.
Are they all affordable and supportive? How would that breakdown go?
So the building is considered permanent supportive housing. All of Breaking Ground's residences are a mix of units, meaning that there is a percentage of units set aside for formerly homeless individuals and or families, and the balance of the building is set aside for working individuals or families. So again, all of the services at the building are available to everybody in the building, but our buildings are integrated. People are formerly homeless and getting back on their feet, and there are other people that are working and just have low incomes.
And it's my understanding that you have amazing success rates at the formerly homeless staying housed in those units.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So we have, across our portfolio of more than 3,000 units of permanent housing, a less than 1% eviction rate across the portfolio. And we have what's called a stability rate, which means that when you come into our house, into our permanent housing, your chances of remaining stable there year after year is more than 88%, which effectively means that people only move out when they need some sort of higher level of care, if they pass away, or if they become more independent and they're able to move on.
Breaking Ground's really known for its homeless outreach programs too.
Yes.
What are some of your strategies when you're trying to get people off the street?
Yeah, Breaking Ground has been doing street outreach work since 2007. Again, in all of Brooklyn, all of Queens, and about a third of Manhattan. And we're responsible for providing outreach services to anybody that's on the streets 24/7, 365 days a year. Our strategies are really to work with the client where they are. And what that means is for people that are living on the streets of New York and have been year after year, living with mental illness, substance abuse disorder, medical frailties. They've had a lot of experiences that have caused them to become homeless and cause them to stay on the streets. And our goal is to figure out what strategies we can employ to get a client to want to come inside. We're not going to force anybody to come inside as long as he or she is not a harm to himself or others, but we're going to employ strategies using a variety of techniques, doctors, nurses, social workers, and the like, to develop relationships with people on the street to gain trust and have them start to believe that we can really help them move on.
Okay, and what do you say to people who kind of object to giving people housing first before sort of underlying problematic behaviors are sometimes addressed?
I say that when somebody is living out on the streets, most of their energy goes to surviving each and every day on the streets. They don't have the time or the resources to start to resolve and solve the underlying issues that led them to homelessness to begin with. So they don't have a refrigerator to keep their medications. They don't have their medications, period. They don't have somebody working with them to understand what are the behaviors that led them into homelessness and what can be done to stop them. So having a home is the first step in being able to feel safe and secure so that you can spend more of your energy working on the problems that led you into homelessness.
And to pick up on what Laura's saying, though, I mean, it does sound like with a 98% retention rate,
Yes.
which is extraordinary. I mean, that would be extraordinary in any population.
Yeah.
That clearly you're helping them with stability and a lot of those mental health needs or addiction or other things that might have gotten them on the streets in the first place. My guess is that you're seeing enormous desistance or reductions in those problem behaviors by virtue of stable housing.
That's exactly right. So when somebody comes into permanent stable housing with on-site supports, they're motivated to improve their lives, right? They don't want to go back out onto the streets. So even though no services are mandatory in supportive housing, they're all voluntary, the rate of engagement is very high. And so when we're working with our tenants and we're saying, you know, what do you want for yourself? What do you see as success for yourself? Yes, staying stable in housing. What else do you want to achieve in your lifetime, and how can we help you get there? Oftentimes, reducing your reliance on substances is a huge goal for people, and we're here to help them that happen. We're here to help them diagnose what their mental illness is and get them on the right medication.
There are also, different types of homelessness besides, chronic single adults who are on the streets for years. There's also, families who are homeless or people who are very temporarily homeless. Do you think supportive housing is the right answer for all of those types? Or some people criticize supportive housing as being one size fits all.
Yeah, I would say that supportive housing is the answer for certain populations of homelessness. There are, on any given night, there are 60,000 people in the family shelter system, over 20,000 of whom are children. And the largest problem and the largest factor in having people go into family shelter is purely economic. So the majority of families that are in shelter need affordable rents, need a rental subsidy to help them get back on their feet and be able to pay their rent every month. That doesn't mean that they need robust on-site wraparound support services that we offer in supportive housing. There are others that have mental illness and substance abuse disorder, families and singles, that do require that type of on-site care. So I would say that both independent living, independent affordable housing and supportive housing are needed. It's not the answer for everybody, it's the answer for people who have more barriers than purely economic barriers to housing.
And I think along those lines, though, I mean, based on kind of some of the themes you've been touching on, though, that I think it is important to at least mention that the cost savings, you know, to the city, to local, state, even federal government, by virtue of these buildings, supportive and affordable housing, has to be amazing. And when we come back, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. I'm here with political science major Laura Galmo and President and CEO of Breaking Ground, Brenda Rosen. We'll be right back. This is Health Equity Now.
Chiru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. And we are there as you start your next chapter. We are with you through life's journey. We are Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Welcome back to Health Equity Now. I'm very pleased to be here with political science major Laura Galmo and President and CEO of Breaking Ground, Brenda Rosen. So Brenda, we were chatting about the amazing buildings that Breaking Ground has done, your 98% retention rate, the wide range of services that you're offering by virtue of it being supportive housing in addition to affordable housing. It just seems to me, you know, and again, homelessness in New York City and in large urban areas has gotten a lot of press lately because of increased numbers. Clearly it's something that, you know, is on people's minds and that we need to address. It seems to me that there might be an enormous cost savings associated with such an incredible retention rate of formerly homeless people. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I think anecdotally, supportive housing providers have known for a long time that when you come into stable housing, that your medical costs and other public costs are decreased. Over the past several years, specifically through work with the state, we've been able to quantify and demonstrate that when somebody is coming in from being homeless on the streets into permanent supportive housing, on average, there's a decrease of approximately $10,000 in Medicaid spending per year per client. So it's not just a one-time only savings. This is every year, and I'm only speaking to the Medicaid savings.
Exactly.
You know, the other public interventions that happen when you're out on the street with police and EMS and all sorts of other
emergency room visits.
Yes, you know, the costs are incredibly high, and I think one of the myths that people have is that you're out on the street, you're not costing anybody anything, you're coming into housing with all of these services, it's so expensive. It's quite the opposite. It saves money when you come into permanent supportive housing, so it's a win-win in every imaginable way, and that's been documented.
And I think one thing that I really want to pick up on there that I think is so important to what you're saying is that, you know, typically my guess would be, you know, clearly you're building large structures that are multi-million-dollar structures that are probably financed through a variety of means, public and private.
Yes.
And but the fact is, typically there wouldn't be a research component necessarily automatically built in that. And as a researcher and academic, the fact that you're beginning to quantify that is so important, because my guess is that if we did take into account those costs of emergency room visits and EMS services that have all been drastically reduced by virtue of this stable housing, that the cost savings would be in the tens of millions per building, probably at a minimum.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we're only just beginning to put the dollar figure on savings. You know, people that are homeless and particularly out on the streets often have, you know, interactions with the criminal justice system and other public resources. Again, all of those have been proven to decrease substantially when you come into stable housing with supports. So to be able to, you know, gather the data and be able to put a dollar figure next to that will only further demonstrate the value of supportive housing.
So how would you describe the state of supportive and affordable housing today in New York, and what could the government be doing better?
Well, so we all know we're in an affordable housing crisis. Everybody talks about it. In addition, you know, homelessness has, unfortunately, due to the affordable housing crisis and other factors, has become more of a crisis in the city. I will say that both the city and the state have committed to significant resources being put into the development and operation of supportive and affordable housing. The city alone is committed to preserving and developing 200,000 units of affordable and supportive housing over the next 10 years. The state has committed to a similarly sized program and committed to specifically 20,000 units of supportive housing over the next 15 years. So in addition to the city and the state putting capital dollars into the development of affordable and supportive housing, there are a lot of other initiatives taking place throughout the city and the state. The city is devising new rental subsidies that will mimic Section 8 so that people that are subsisting on low incomes can afford to move into apartments and be able to have a rental subsidy that will pay the difference, so that they, you know, are not re-entering the shelter system because they can't afford the rent. So I do think that both the governor and the mayor have committed to a lot of resources and are coming through with a lot of resources.
What other political positions would you advise people to pressure their elected officials to take?
I think, well, from our perspective, we are always really happy to see supportive housing being included in any big initiative that's taking place. So the city has parcels of land that they are putting out for competitive bid, and nonprofits and others are applying to develop on those pieces of land, which is incredibly important because land is at a premium these days and hard to come by. When the city and or the state mandate that supportive housing be a part of that mixed model, it's very important, and it only furthers the belief that integration is very important, that you don't need to have, you know, the people that need supportive housing over here and the people that don't over there. Our buildings are mixed, communities should be mixed, and so I think people should really look to see that when new development is coming into their neighborhood, that that elected officials and others are really trying to make those broad communities for people of different incomes and different backgrounds.
And that's a perfect segue into something I wanted to ask about. So I can imagine that a lot of viewers might be across a variety of income levels and, you know, of course, homeless folks. How does one get in one of these buildings? Are there income cutoffs? Are there lotteries?
Yeah.
What's the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. For anybody that is out there working and looking for affordable housing, the first thing that I would say is to go on to the HPD website and log on, register with something called Housing Connect. Housing Connect is a system that alerts you to any housing lottery that's going on in the city. So anybody, Breaking Ground or anybody else that's building affordable housing, is required to have a lottery to then randomly select eligible applicants to come into those units. And the easiest way to be alerted to the lotteries and to get into these lotteries is through Housing Connect. The city's worked really quite hard to make it as user-friendly as possible. If you're homeless and you're looking for housing, it is a different route. You come in through organizations like Breaking Ground. You work with the Department of Homeless Services while you're in shelter. Your case manager is working to get you into housing, and so connects you with Breaking Ground or another nonprofit that has units for homeless people. So there are two different systems, but the most direct route for people looking for affordable housing is to go through Housing Connect.
But tell me the name of that. Tell me the name of the website again, or the.
Yeah, it's the Housing Preservation Development website, and if you just search Housing Connect,
that's what I wanted.
It'll lead you right to that.
So if I'm on Google and I go Housing Connect,
it'll bring you right there.
It's going to bring it up.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yes.
What do you see as the next steps for affordable and supportive housing? You've said that the governor and the mayor have committed to these large programs over the next 5 to 10 years. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to take some time, but at least we're moving in the right direction. I would assume that the sort of supportive housing movement is relatively recent, but perhaps it isn't. Like this, providing all those services on the ground level that I've seen that any resident can take advantage of. How long has that been more of an industry standard, and what do you see is on the horizon that we're not doing yet?
So supportive housing really began in the 1980s in earnest, but I'd say over the past 15 or so years has without a doubt become the gold standard in terms of housing for people with mental illness, substance abuse issues, HIV and AIDS, and other populations that have a lot of barriers to stability in housing. So it is supportive housing that is a flexible model. When you come into supportive housing, it's not a one-size-fits-all in terms of what services everybody's going to be taking advantage of. We work with every person to figure out what tailored approach we should take to help ensure stability and success for everybody coming into supportive housing. So I think that the future for development of supportive housing is very, very bright, despite the fact that real estate prices have increased so dramatically through things like city-owned land and joint ventures with other developers. So I absolutely think that the 35,000 units that the governor and the mayor have committed to will be developed, and will be yearning for more in advance of the 15-year time limit that they've put on this. In terms of other strategies, I think what we're talking about is being able to be even more flexible with services. So right now, for example, if I have a building in the Bronx and I have a building in Brooklyn, I will have service contracts to provide services to the tenants in those buildings. At any given time, there may be more people in the building in Brooklyn that need services than more people in the Bronx. Being able to be flexible and be able to move those service dollars to the people that need it, to focus for a certain amount of time when you're first opening up a new building and people need more help before they really become stable.
Sure.
Is very important. And so we're having a lot of conversations about being able to be more flexible with those service dollars across portfolios.
Wonderful. I am very happy to have been here today with my co-host, Laura Galmo, political science major at Lehman College, the City University of New York, and with our esteemed guest, Brenda Rosen, President and CEO of Breaking Ground, talking about the past, present, and future of affordable and supportive housing in New York City and beyond. Take good care. See you soon. This has been Health Equity Now.
is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
From the north to the south to the west to the east, we are expanding our services and upgrading technology at Lehman College. And now, Bronxites have an innovative media production facility in the East Bronx at Mercy College in the Hutch Metro Center. The windows on the East Bronx studio, a state-of-the-art control room, media labs for production and training, and other media-capable spaces. Training, workforce development, leading-edge technology, and programs that help you share your ideas, your voice, on your channels, locally and globally. Build media and technology skills at BronxNet and build your dreams.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. We are there when you get your first job, helping you to save for the future. We are there when you marry your sweetheart to help secure your new life together. We are there if the unexpected happens, to help you see life from a new perspective. We are there when you start your next chapter to make sure you get off to a great start. And we are there when you lose your soulmate to help make sure you will be all right. We are with you through life's journey. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us and see what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.